Everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the final edition of NoDQ&A video until after SummerSlam weekend. SummerSlam weekend is upon us. The 4-hour extravaganza, the epic SummerSlam pay-per-view on the WWE Network is this Sunday. Saturday night is the NXT show, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. NoDQ.com has got you covered with all the latest news, rumors, and of course, live results coverage. Now let's get to your questions here from twitter.com/AaronRift. First one today comes from @Daredevil_5150. What do you see WWE doing with Kevin Owens after his feud with Cesaro? I am really hopeful that this will be the beginning of bigger things to come for Kevin Owens and that WWE will continue to push him. I think that the SummerSlam weekend really is a perfect opportunity for Kevin Owens to elevate his status in WWE, because think about it. He can not only possibly steal the show at SummerSlam, but also at the NXT TakeOver event. He has the ladder match with Finn Balor at the NXT show, and then the next night he's up against Cesaro, which very well could be the match of the night at SummerSlam. 2 back-to-back match of the nights for Kevin Owens. One would think his stock in WWE will rise. I am really hopeful of that. I'm hoping that all the jokes made towards him, the fat jokes, I'm hoping that that will subside and we won't get those jokes anymore and WWE will take him seriously and he'll be an upper mid-carder, possibly a main eventer, a top-level heel similar to Seth Rollins. That's what I'm hoping. But anything's possible. One would think, though, that this weekend should be huge for Kevin Owens, and this should be a career-defining weekend for him with his 2 back-to-back performances at NXT and then at SummerSlam. And here's another possibility for Kevin Owens. I got this question here from Matthew James @KerrMiller. What do you think of a Kevin Owens and Randy Orton heel tag team? Sort of like Rated RKO, but Team RKO. And he also mentioned, I think it's catchy since Kevin's initials are in RKO. I know not anytime soon, but maybe a year or 2 down the road. That is cute. And it is possible one day we will see those 2 team up. Right now, I don't see the need to do that. Randy Orton is just fine as one of the top baby faces in the company, and Kevin Owens is definitely better off being a heel right now. I see them feuding in the immediate future over the next year or so, but maybe eventually in a year or 2 once Owens is established, and maybe if WWE doesn't know what to do with those 2 guys, you could always put them together as a tag team. But I would focus on Kevin Owens as a singles competitor for the time being. I think that that's where he needs to be going. That's the direction for his character. I think putting him with Randy Orton would be a mistake right now. But as you mentioned, down the line, I could definitely see that as a possibility, them possibly as a top-level heel tag team. All right, this next one comes from Rigger. Aaron, should WWE have done a European faction with Wade Barrett, Sheamus, McIntyre, Regal, or Finlay as a manager? Anti-American faction. You could do that. I think that enough time has passed where it wouldn't be the worst idea. If WWE was doing an anti-American faction every year or so, then it would be overkill. But it's been a while, so I would be all for it. But right now, you have Regal running NXT and having his involvement with the NXT brand, and McIntyre is in TNA as Drew Galloway. Wade Barrett, you could definitely consider doing something with him in that regard, having him start up a European faction, maybe with Sheamus, maybe with a few other people you could add to the group. Maybe Becky Lynch, you could have her as the female member of the group and have the European stable. It's been a while. I don't remember the last time WWE actually had a dominant European faction. So I would be all for it. I think it would be a good idea. Definitely in Barrett's case, because it would give him something to do, and he could really use something right now. All right, this one comes from Ty Marshall. What is the worst SummerSlam pay-per-view? Easy answer, 2007. In my opinion, that pay-per-view was completely forgettable. The only highlight, in my opinion, was a backstage segment. I didn't even care for any of the matches on the show. The funniest thing on the show, the most entertaining thing on the show, was a backstage segment with Vince McMahon, William Regal, and Crime Time, and you had everyone doing the money, yeah, yeah dance, including William Regal, which, in my opinion, was the highlight of that entire SummerSlam pay-per-view. Everything else was subpar, in my opinion. All right, this one comes from @SeahawkBrohawk. If Dana White was running WWE today and Vince was running UFC, do you think WWE would still be more successful than UFC? When you look at Vince McMahon's track record, the WBF, the XFL, every time Vince McMahon has done something other than his core business, professional wrestling, he hasn't done well. But then again, Vince is a promoter. That's what he's been for over 3 decades now, and Dana White is also a promoter. So if Vince was to do anything outside of WWE, he would probably have the best chance of succeeding by doing something like UFC. I don't think that Vince would be more successful at running UFC than Dana White, just because I think Vince is best at promoting professional wrestling. And there are similarities between UFC and WWE, but at the end of the day, one is entertainment and one is a sport. All right, this one comes from @Zim_World666. Hey Aaron, do you see Rey Mysterio going into the WWE Hall of Fame anytime soon? I think it's inevitable that Rey Mysterio will go into the WWE Hall of Fame. I do not see it happening in the near future. I think that that's something down the line, 5, 10, even 15 years from now. That is when I see Rey Mysterio going into the Hall of Fame once his wrestling career is completely over. And there's still a possibility one of these days he'll end up back in WWE in some form. Maybe he'll come back for a part-time run similar to an RVD or a Chris Jericho. I mean, that's also a possibility. And as long as there's still a chance of him coming back and competing in WWE, wouldn't really make sense for him to go into the Hall of Fame. I think that is something that absolutely will happen, but it won't happen for a while. All right, this one comes from @VaderIBA1977 on Twitter. Why haven't we seen any Hell in a Cell matches with spots on the top of the cell since 2002? Any sort of ban on spots on top since? Well, the obvious reason is you don't want the guys going up there and doing crazy stuff and somebody getting hurt. Mick Foley really raised the bar, and he raised it perhaps too high. And WWE's fear is that somebody would try to one-up Mick Foley and in the process seriously hurt themselves, or even worse than that. And we all know how WWE is. They're very careful now about the health and the safety of their performers. And I don't think something that Mick Foley did in that Hell in a Cell match would fly in today's WWE. I don't think that they would go for that. I think WWE would shoot down any idea that somebody would bring up to do a crazy spot like that. We're just not in that era. I'm not going to see guys like Shane McMahon doing those falls either. I mean, the days of those kind of stunts, I think, are over in the world of WWE, just because of how the company has changed and evolved over the years. And they're really looking out for the well-being of the wrestlers. And it's one thing to entertain people; it's another thing to nearly kill yourself in the process. All right, this one comes from Antonius @MJohnson276. Hey Aaron, do you think Sunny is Hall of Fame worthy? She was just a valet and didn't do anything physical in the ring. I think from a personal perspective, her personal life, not Hall of Fame worthy, but as far as her career goes, she did do a lot. She did break a lot of ground in the world of wrestling. She was the first true bona fide diva Up until that point, you had women wrestlers, but Sunny really crossed over. She wasn't just a wrestler, and she really didn't wrestle. She was basically a manager, but then she did other things like doing the bikini magazines and doing the announcing and various odds and end jobs in WWE. And she was the first real WWE diva, the first modern day diva. And she was a great talker as well. It's just, because of her personal problems, I think a lot of people question her being in the Hall of Fame and if she really should be in it or if she should be taken out of it. I think based off of her accomplishments in the mid to late 90s, I would say it's fine with her being in it because she was the first of her kind and she really blazed the trail for future divas in WWE. All right, this one comes from @TheAnimeFans with a Z at the end. Have the Brothers of Destruction, Kane and Undertaker, ever had Paul Bearer in their corner as a tag team? And if not, why? Well, somebody may need to correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I do not believe that Kane and Undertaker ever were a team with Paul Bearer in their corner. I remember when Undertaker and Kane did the storyline where they were in cahoots against Steve Austin. As soon as they got together, they kicked Paul Bearer to the curb, and then they had their falling out, and that's when Paul Bearer came back and realigned himself with Undertaker. And he was aligned with Undertaker until Undertaker got injured and he was off television, and then Kane came back and Paul Bearer was in Kane's corner, and then Paul Bearer disappeared after that, and I don't think he resurfaced until 2004 at WrestleMania 20 when he was with The Undertaker again. So I don't believe Brothers of Destruction and Paul Bearer were ever together as a threesome. That would have been interesting, but unfortunately it just wasn't meant to be. All right, last question here today from The Last Lulu. You will disagree with me, but the Divas matches on Raw really sucked. The people were bored and started chanting, "We want Lesnar." Well, I heard those chants. I don't necessarily agree that the match was bad or both matches were bad. I felt that they were okay. I don't think that they were close to being the best WWE women's matches in recent history. I mean, they were your standard Raw Divas matches. It was a little bit unfortunate that the fans started the chants, especially when there's been all this uproar on the internet about giving Divas a chance, and then these fans start chanting, "We want Lesnar." It's kind of counterproductive. So yeah, that was a bit of a disappointment. I don't think it necessarily means that the matches were bad. I just think that the matches weren't anything spectacular, and the Minneapolis fans wanted to see their hometown guy, so that was the match that they decided to chant for Lesnar. All right, so that'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ&A video. Once again, NoDQ.com is your source for all the late-breaking news and rumors. I will be tweeting @NoDQ, DOTCOM, and also follow me @AaronRift. That's where you can submit questions for future editions of No DQ&A video. And on that note, I will see you guys next time. Actually, I will see you this coming weekend. I will give my thoughts on NXT TakeOver. And then myself and Jeff Meacham will have our thoughts on WWE SummerSlam late Sunday night, early Monday morning. So check that out. Subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQCAW. See you guys next time.